On November 12th, Dewey Bartlett won re-election as Tulsa mayor with a resounding victory over former Mayor Kathy Taylor. Bartlett took 55% of the vote, despite being outspent more than 3-1. There were also 3 propositions on Tuesday's Tulsa ballot. Tulsa World reporter Randy Krehbiel joins me to talk about the results. Randy, the mayoral race, that was a surprise to some extent.
Well, I think some people were surprised by the margin, and maybe some people were surprised by the result. But I think if you look at the recent voting patterns in Tulsa and some of the demographics involved, it probably wasn't all that surprising. First of all, it's very difficult for a Democrat to get elected to just about anything in Tulsa County right now, or in the city of Tulsa. It's a little easier in the city of Tulsa, but it's still very difficult. And even though this was supposed to be a nonpartisan election, everybody knew that Kathy Taylor was a Democrat and Dewey Bartlett was a Republican. The state parties had been involved, and the Bartlett's campaign did a pretty good job of tying Kathy Taylor to Barack Obama and that sort of thing. So even though it was supposed to be nonpartisan, it was highly partisan. And also, I don't think that Mayor Bartlett had done anything to really get the electorate upset at him. It wasn't like there was a big push for change. And in the final analysis, Kathy Taylor needed to get some Republicans to either vote for her or stay home on Election Day, and that didn't happen.
And it was the most expensive mayoral race in Tulsa history.
Yeah, yes, it was probably more expensive than a lot of statewide races we've had. She spent a lot of her own money on the race, over, I think it was over $2 million. So a very, very expensive race, and a lot of TV time. And I think some people wondered if it wasn't just in the end too much, that people just finally became so tired of it that at some point the advertising and so forth was no longer effective.
So the good news for Mayor Bartlett is that he was reelected. The bad news is that the city is experiencing a revenue budget shortfall.
Well, that's what they're looking at right now, I think this is probably a concern for almost all municipalities in Oklahoma because of the way cities are financed. Basically your operating revenue is limited to sales tax, and that's become an increasingly unreliable source of revenue. So the situation right now is that actually the sales tax revenue is up a little bit over the previous year, but it's not up as much as had been expected or budgeted for, and that was the case last year too. The reason we're looking at a shortfall now is because they had budgeted for a carryover from the previous year, and it turned out we didn't have any carryover.
Tulsa voters passed 3 propositions on Tuesday. That doesn't always happen in Tulsa.
No, and I think, and of course, really the most surprising one that passed, and I think this was to caused by some very artful wording of the proposition, was a pay raise for the city councilors, which went from $18,000 to $24,000. But the proposition didn't say that it was a raise. It just said that the salary would be fixed and it couldn't be raised without a vote of the people. The other 2 were part of a capital improvement package. And, it seems like in this town, you can often get a capital package passed if it's heavy on streets and bridges, which this one was, and doesn't include a lot of things that people perceive as being targeted to certain groups of people or certain parts of town. So this was almost $920 million, the 2 items together, and about 60% of that is for streets, roads, and bridges. The rest of it spread out among a lot of other things, including police and fire, parks. Parks have really been neglected in Tulsa for a long time. And the city council really spent a lot of time explaining this and taking input from voters. I think they had something like 50 public meetings on this before they put it in the final form, and they tried to listen to what I think they really did. Lots of times when they say, we're listening to you, they're not. I think on this occasion, they really did try and listen to what people said they wanted.
Randy Krehbiel of the Tulsa World, an interesting election to be sure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.